morning, good afternoon, good evening. The true picture of what happened in Tanzania before, during, and after the recent elections is still to emerge. But it looks like what happened there is being roundly condemned, and rightly so too. The level of violence and destruction was totally unacceptable. And I think it should be noted here, particularly for those who are not familiar with the history of Africa, that Tanzania has been stable, although economically it has not been doing very well, but nonetheless politically it was stable. And so what happened in these elections, a blatant denial of the people's right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country, was a shock to the people of Tanzania and a shock to the region. And it is right and proper that many people have come out and condemned it. Here is former president of Botswana, Khama, condemning what happened there.
I, for one, do not recognize the person who was inaugurated as the president of Tanzania. She is an illegitimate president. The Africa we dream of, peaceful, prosperous, and respected, will only emerge when our governance is guided by our values and not by our interests. Turning to recent examples, it is totally unacceptable. It is totally unacceptable when an Africa leader, in order to stay in power, will resort to killing his or her own people. In order to stay in power, will rig an election, as if they are God's gift to their country. When you have a country with millions of people, for any leader to think they are the only ones who can be president is pathetic. And therefore, and my apology to those who may come from Tanzania, but I'm mentioning this because they are your neighbor, that the recent election and what transpired, the killings around that election, I, for one, do not recognize the person who was inaugurated as the president of Tanzania. She is an illegitimate president.
Well, Ben, she is an illegitimate president.
Point blank. That's the first thing I can say. I think the former president was spot on. He didn't hold anything back. Call a spade a spade. I mean, we've seen what happened in Tanzania. You know, it's sad. It's also pathetic to see somebody, you know, go to such lengths just to keep hold on power. You know, you're supposed to be serving at the end of the day. But then if you are then going out, going as far as getting people to, that's another level, you know. And I must say to the former president, well done for stepping up and showing other leaders that are still stubborn, because Africa still has these dictators, if I may use that word, that will persecute their own people, will kill their own people just to keep hold of power. And I think this is the beginning of a new chapter where people are now coming up and standing for their rights and standing for others too, which is a very, very good thing.
Yeah, I think the situation in Tanzania is disappointing, to say the least. But I think it should also be mentioned, emphasized here, that maybe the thorough investigation into this will tell us what really happened. Because there are some stories showing that countries like Zimbabwe played a part in what happened in Tanzania. We have had the misfortune of having in our own country a regime that has rigged elections ever since the country's independence in 1980. Zimbabwe has yet to hold free, fair, and credible elections. That is a truth. We were given the opportunity to end this nightmare during the GNU of 2008 to 2013. Unfortunately, we wasted it. And ever since, we've been back to rigged elections. Mnangagwa rigged 2023 elections. And when former President Khama says the president of Tanzania is illegitimate, I think, and I know, that people like Mnangagwa must know she's not the only one who is illegitimate. He too is illegitimate. Here he is speaking after the 2013 elections, when both SADC and the AU condemned those elections as flawed and illegitimate.
Vana vakatuka Zanu PF kana ini ndonyanyisa kufara kuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vakwashi kurumbidzwa nekuchikanganisa. Ukavona vachiti Zanu PF yakaipa farai. You are doing great things for your country. Hongu takaita ma-elections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi ma-election anafamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
Nonetheless, when you are now being called illegitimate, I think to keep on pretending that ndezvavo, it just doesn't wash. People like Mnangagwa are and know that rigging elections would be bad enough. Getting away with it is becoming increasingly difficult. And that is a truth that must be hammered home.
You know, one thing we must remember, and history, the good thing about history, especially these, modern days, is that you can always refer back to, videos and so forth. After the extraordinary summit on Zimbabwe 2023 elections, we could see Emmerson Mnangagwa visibly sweating and clearly very unhappy. because you had been given a tag. So they may say in Desavo, outside, but deep inside, it's not a good place to be in. But what I want to actually dwell on today is that how did Tanzania get to this situation where now we are finding that the people, the citizens of Tanzania, are winning the fight against an illegitimate president? The people of Tanzania took a stand. They told themselves that we are not going to be part of a rigged and a dubious election. And they stood by that. They did not participate in flawed elections. And they made their position known. Now, this is where the difference comes in with Zimbabwe. We will gladly participate because we are told by the opposition they will win rigged elections, which we all know is impossible. And once we have done that, once we have participated, we have given legitimacy to the process. We have, we have agreed that there is nothing wrong. We will continue doing, and we have made it acceptable. So this is where the difference comes into play. The others have taken, Tanzanians have taken the right path and have made that they, of their position, and the international community has stood up now for them. I mean, we can hear the whole news. Former president of United States, Barack Obama, was actually talking about the same thing. The whole world is talking about Tanzania. They cannot do the same because Zimbabweans are willing participants. And worse off, the opposition will gladly take seats in a process that has already been told is illegal. So nobody can support us. It's business as usual. Leaves them as they are. So unless we correct that position, we will always be loners. We cannot then go out and try and say, SADC, help us. You help us. You refused advice. So I think it's very, very important to differentiate the two. And we are making a bad decision each and every time. And I bet 2028, we will do the same thing. And then tomorrow after that, we say, SADC is useless. AU is useless. We are useless.
I think it is important that we should also emphasize that in Zimbabwe, we can divide the electorate into two distinct groups. Those in the rural areas, which Zanu PF has always claimed ever since 1980 to be its stronghold, they have no meaningful say in the governance of the country. Zanu PF is holding the people in the rural area to ransom. They have never had exercised a free, fair, and credible election. Zanu PF thugs operate in the rural areas and boss over the rural voters in much the same way as the medieval landlords bossed over the serfs. That is the tragic reality of Zimbabwe. That has never changed. Here is Margaret Dongo speaking, explaining why the rural people continue to vote for Zanu PF.
They have wrong priorities, especially the current government. How can you go and build an airport which services a few people, and the majority are the elite and the so-called investors? Look at the rural. I made you come to interview me because I wanted you to have the experience of the roads that we are using. If we go today to our hospital there, you feel pity with that's a hospital in a rural area. If we go to our clinic, you feel pity. We have no piped water here. Do you know the reason why the rural people vote for Zanu PF? One, they're intimidated. Two, the policy is that the rural people should remain poor and subservient to the government. They should remain poor, because if they remain poor, they continue singing the song for their master. This is why these people have been impoverished. It's for a reason. Because the moment, if you economic empower these people, they'll go out of hand. Zanu PF will never have control over them.
That's the tragedy of Zimbabwe. We have 60% of the voters were based in the rural areas. And they are serfs, totally dependent and intimidated by Zanu PF ruling elite and their proxies, be it chiefs, headmen, war veterans, and the militia. The other half is those in the urban centers. They are the ones who, majority of whom support the opposition. They have got a meaningful decision to make. They can decide whether or not to vote. And when we say they've been conned into believing that the opposition will win big, we are talking of these urban voters. How anyone in this day and age can continue to believe some of the idiotic lies that have been peddled by the likes of Chamisa beggars belief. But that, unfortunately, is the reality in Zimbabwe. They are the ones who participate in their millions and give the process legitimacy. That is our biggest problem. Come 2028, we are looking at the possibility of the same 2 million or so being conned into participating in 2028 elections and giving Zanu PF legitimacy. That is our biggest problem in Zimbabwe.
Now, a lot of people will always be saying, so give us a solution, or rather, let's think outside the box for a solution. You know, Zimbabwe's case is not extremely special. In fact, the solution was given a long, long time ago. And like you said, we were given opportunities to end this case of rigged elections. But each and every time, we either ignore the solution or we don't want the solution. We've been given recommendations. Do this before you head into any election, such that you can have free, fair, and credible elections. We don't want that, because the opposition have said it's okay, we can participate with the rigging. But then when you look at it, you have a ZEC that, you know, has the children of Zanu PF officials. I mean, it's not common sense. You don't have to be brilliant to figure out what's going on here. We are in this mess because we have decided to keep ourselves in it. We have become comfortable with being losers. Zimbabwe has an opportunity to stop the curse of rigged elections. Tanzania has set an example. It can be done. It can be fixed. And help is there. The international community will speak up against it. The onus is on us to do the right thing. And up until we decide to do the right thing first, no one will come and help us. Choice is ours.
Well, I'd like to thank former President Ian Khama for standing up for the ordinary, downtrodden Africans. We need to get out of this mess that we have landed ourselves. Many African countries have been independent for decades, and yet they failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And so the nation has been dogged by political instability and economic chaos. We need to get out of this. And the first step in achieving that is ending this case of rigged elections and bad governance. It is not rocket science. And I think sending a message out there that anyone who thinks they can rig elections and getting away with it is being given notice as of now. We'll be looking at what happens in Tanzania with great interest, because that will be that has sent a clear message to all dictators out there who have rigged elections in the past and got away with it. That will not be so easy. This mentality that they've got the divine right to rule, we must stamp it out. No one has the divine right to rule. We want Africa and every African to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. The right to rule should be derived from the democratic will of the people in a free, fair, and credible election. That is what we want. And we must have it. Thank you very much. Those of you who were able to join us, thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll be able to do it again, same time, 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time, during the week, and over the weekend, same times, and this time you are invited to join us on the platform and have your say. The link for that Saturday and Sunday one is shown at the bottom of your screen there. The link doesn't change. It will always be the same. So we hope you will be able to join us. And those who were able to join us tonight, again, thank you very much for joining us. Good night.